Welcome back to Naval Action and episode 52 of A Letter to the King. If you're new to the series or if you're keeping abreast of things going on in naval action while you're on hiatus, this is my attempt to keep us up to date with the to and the fro and the biff on Euro PvP Server 1. Episode 52 is, of course, my first birthday. So this is a cake that's been made for me and sent in by one of the viewers in my dreams. It's obviously a Busan tear, as we can see, because it's got a shed. It's tragically being captured by apparently Spanish pirates led by a Dane. So thank you to the community, first of all, for keeping me interested enough to keep this up for a year. 200,000 views, over 100 videos. Around on naval action, lots of folks who 200,000 views and 100. I'm actually slightly more successful than Batman versus Superman was at my local cinema, so that's very good. So thank you to everyone who says hello on the seas and sends me comments and in-game mail and in-forum mail. It's much appreciated. I'm a big fan of our naval action game. I'm obviously a big fan of what I hope it will end up being in time. And I'm very grateful to all the support I get and the chance I get to chat to you all. And so happy birthday, Letter to the King. And thanks very much for everyone involved. Right, enough of this self-gratification. Let's get on to where were we at the end of last week. So alliances-wise, we're pretty much still aligned. I guess the news is that some of the Brits broke off and became pirates this week. There's some trouble at mill with the US and the Brits I'll get into later. And the Dutch still haven't really recovered from one of their major clans going over. They're still around and they still participate in all the allied BIFO. But as a standalone unit that can run its own port battles, they're really still getting themselves together. I'm sure they'll come back, the Dutch. So where are we, or where were we at the start of the week? The French had reclaimed territories on the north side of the South American mainland. The US had been purged from Haiti. There'd been some toing and froing with ports around the southern tip of Florida, and there was lots of aggro going on in the little islands in just off the coast here in the Bahamas around Nassau. So the first biff of the week began with a Spanish attack on Las Llanas that was repelled by the US. And of course, I just remind you, because some people do comment, when I say a Spanish attack or an American defense, a US defense, pardon me, it's very much to do with the who bought the flag, not bought the flag, generated the hostility and defended the port. In almost every single battle this week, there was mixed alliances, both defending and attacking and screening. So although you see the different flags, it's very much the Eastern and Western Alliance involved in all actions. After the attack on Los Llanas, we had the first win of the day, which was an attack on Andros by the Danes. This was a shallow water victory. Sorry, this was a US attack on the Danes. And this was a shallow water victory to the US, although this was one of the infamous, as the Eastern Alliance refer to it as, night flips. But for the US players, of course, it's right in the middle of their day, and thus much umbrage shall be generated later on in A Letter to the King. But the Americans, 25 ships against 10, probably 15 by the end of the battle, but they won it comfortably with no losses to the US side. And obviously when you're dominant in numbers like that, you're always going to win. The Brits then had another go at Salamanca, probably one of the hardest ports in naval action to take, predominantly because you have to sail up this channel of doom to get to Salamanca. And although the Brits got a full fleet and a reasonable number of screeners, it was not enough for them to penetrate the screening defences. And so the attempt by the fleet to get in was aborted. and the Spanish screened that out comfortably. The Brits then had a late run. This would have been about 1 a.m. At Basse-Terre, and this was defended, and I'm pretty sure it was screened out. I'm just looking at my notes now. I'm pretty sure it was screened out, and the Brits never managed to get into Basse-Terre. And the French defended Basse-Terre, no problems. The Americans then faced an attack let me just get my notes together, at Islamorada from the Spanish. This was an interesting battle, and the French played this, the US allies played this very differently, where they really concentrated. The Spanish alliance came in with a bit of a split fleet approach. The Western alliance spent a lot of time positioning and knocking sails down, and then in very much a planned and well executed tactic, they then picked off the ships that had been particularly nobbled, if you like, by the sail attacks, and did a number of boardings quickly that really tipped the balance of the battle, which meant they had a 3 or 4 ship advantage quite early in the battle, and it ended up being a real roll by the US-led alliance. I think they ended up killing 8 ships and only lost 1 in the process, and that was to a little bit of folly. So the US defended Islamorada. The Swedes were then attacked at Pap again. I don't have much detail on this or the next couple, actually. I know the Cloggies, the Dutch, intended to go for Caracas, but really couldn't muster the requisite forces to make an honest attack on Caracas. The French then had a visit from the Brits at Castries, and this was a real tricky battle of screeners, and the French ended up preventing the Brits from actually getting into the port. There was some good screening battles that took place, and a fair amount of ships were exchanged, but Castries was safe. The Brits were then attacked by the Swedes, again in the Bahamas. This is at Abaco, and this proved to be in the end a win for the Swedes. The Brits had a lot of new captains in here and a few guys not on TeamSpeak, and to be honest, it was not the highlight of a tactical excellence by the Brits, and so the Swedes managed to capture Abaco. The French then had a go at the Windward Islands, which is a 4th-rate battle, and most of their fleet got eaten up in 2 or 3 waves of screens. A few brave Eastern Alliance captains did actually make it in, but and got engaged in some fracas around one of the circles. But in the end, as the main French fleet didn't get in, the battle was open. I don't even think a ship was lost here. Maybe 1, but I don't think a ship was lost here. And so the Brits held on to the Windward Islands, no problems at all. There was then as there always is, the courtesy biff at Les Cays. And this was a middle of the afternoon on the weekend for me, so this would have been a late one for the Euro Brigade. There was a small screening fleet, a couple of first rates from memory, and they did manage to, unfortunately the Brits had quite a few new sailors sailing with them, and one of them sort of sailed across the line and got himself tagged. So in the end, the Brits ended up only getting 20 ships in, and a couple of those were screening reserves that got pulled in renommes and the likes. And although it was quite an interesting little battle, and there was a couple of funny fire ships that blew up, the French were never really, and their Eastern allies were never really under threat, and they managed to defend that from the Brits easy enough. As we come towards the close of the week, the Spanish had a go at, I think it's called Gasbrilla, the main port. Now, at this stage, all the shenanigans about the service split had come out, and a lot of the Americans and the Brits were pretty sad monkeys about this, and there was really not much defence put up. I think in the end, there was only about 10 captains bothered to turn up for the Western Alliance, and this was an easy win for the Spanish, who retook the western side of Florida and brought it back into Spanish hands. The French, cheeky as they are, had another little go at Pedro Cay, and a lot of them got caught in the screen, which was interesting. In that, I think they ended up getting 17 or 18 in, so it was a comfortable win for the Brits. And lots of new captains, as there always is. I'm always happy to see the Pedro Cay attacks because it brings out all the puppies, if you like, from KPR proper, and they all get a chance to go into a port battle. It was led by one of the regular British commanders, so they all got a chance to have a feel for that. Plus, they got a chance to play with the screening. So this was more good fun, but it was really the Eastern Alliance couldn't get enough ships in, just because there's so many captains who come down from KPR, ringing the islands from both directions. Very, very hard to get a fleet in here, of course. And then finally an oddball one where a bunch of Brits who joined the pirates, grumpy with one of the clans, had a crack at, what's it called? Costa Rica, I think. Martinez, down here at Costa Rica. And only about 7 pirates turned up, and they all got snaffled up by a screen, and 25 captains pretty much spent the time demasting each other in an empty port and walked away with a lovely set of ships and paints, which will all be deleted soon. So the Brits managed to hold on to Martinez, no problems. And so we get on to March Madness, and it's one of these, I don't know what's been going on this week. I think we've all been, Christmas is finished, we're all having to go back to work, university's started, everyone seems to be a little bit touched, a little bit special at the moment. So the devs, they've had a good pint of March Madness. There's like 3 different versions of patches kicking around. There's all the stuff on the test server at the moment, so this is things like the ship integrity bar, the new rules of engagement, not being able to log out in front of port battles, the scaled rules of engagement, the advent of admiralty points, all this sort of stuff. And then at the same time, 2 new announcements in the developer announcements thing. One was about a new building and ownership rules. This was, I don't know if you remember, a long time ago, the such is a lord or some crazy bonkers type thing. And this was a set of rules that said if you capture a port, you'll get rights, and you can use those rights to build buildings and the likes. Which was sort of very much, oh, hello, where did that come from? And it was buddied up with this this other announcement that in the next 30 days, as close as a week from now, and maybe 5 weeks from now, there will be a great ship wipe. All of our ships will be killed, deleted from the database. All of our modules will disappear, and I think our captains will disappear as well. And now when you craft a ship, it will not have a quality, so it won't be gold or purple or green or whatever. And all ships will be 1 durability. And there'll be no more modules, so no more gold carpenter teams from Dupegate kicking around. Instead, you will earn experience that stays with you forever by sailing a ship. Now, I really hope it's more than sailing a ship, otherwise we'll have the return of the AFK brigades with their bobbing water devices keeping their keyboard moving. I hope it is actually either doing trading or travelling from port to port, or XP earned through PvP or PvP events or sinking fleets or whatever. But basically you will essentially earn experience against the ship you're in. So if you're a trader and you're sailing around in an Indiaman a lot, I assume that over time you will earn the equivalent to the modules and the perks that the captain has in order to allow you to improve your ship, or how it sails, or how much cargo it holds, etc., etc. There's a little bit of detail in there, but not enough to be 100% sure as to exactly how it's going to be working. And so this will be happening soon, and the expectation is that there'll also nobble ship chests and ship notes. The expectation is that we'll keep our blueprints. It does mean things like the Waffen van Hamburger will disappear from existence because there's no blueprint for that, which is a good thing, in my opinion, because it's a horrible ship made out of Lego and it looks like a shoe from 1625. But some people do like the Waffen van Hamburger. Then again, some people are vegans. So, every man to himself, I suppose. So what's the saying? The way to a man's stomach... the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Unless he's a vegan, then it's his vagina. Sorry, vegans, it's just a joke. I'm sure it's meant to be taken lightly. So the Great Ship Wipe's coming. I actually quite look forward to this. I think it'll make ships more valuable. We'll have less captains running around with 40 ships. It might give a boon to the traders who sell ships and ship parts. Regional bonuses will still exist, but you'll craft a note, which when you use to build the ship, you can somehow imbue your ship. So you'll go and craft a note, say from Wilmington for the strong hull bonus, and then craft your ship wherever you craft it using that note or some sort of thing like that. So the Great Ship Wipe is on its way. Now, the new building ownership rules caused a lot of grumpiness, and quite rightly too, because the idea was if you were part of a port battle, then you would get the rights to be able to build buildings and things like that. However, of course, there's a lot of people who trade, and there's a lot of people who don't get involved in port battles. Port battles are a bit of an exclusive club, not overly exclusive, but a bit of an exclusive club. So in the end, after quite a lot of community, you're doing, boys, this one was given the Ixnay and has been removed, so they no longer intend to implement this. Now, what's on the test server and the Great Ship Wipe and the new crafting stuff? And raids? Whatever happened to raids? I don't know where raids have gone. It's all a bit confusing. So it's been the best part of 3 months now since we had a content patch, apart from the odd emergency fix to get rid of exploits and the like, or bug exploits. But as it is, it's all a bit interesting. Now, the big news, of course, is the sundering of the server. So, look, there's two halves to this, which is the best number of halves I've always felt. If you're French or Spanish or Danish or Swedish and your port gets attacked at US prime time, then essentially you've got to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning to defend your port. And that's caused no end of salt and tears amongst the Eastern Alliance, and as the US have played in their main time zone for them and attacked Haiti or wherever it's been, Islamorada, Gasparilla, and taken ports that are either not defended or defended by guys who are up at 2 a.m. and then can't make it to work or whatever. There's been a great deal of sadness and woe. And that sadness and woe has resonated with the devs. Now, there's a lot of people on the Western Alliance who feel as though the devs who play mostly on the Eastern Alliance do seem to be a little bit one-eyed with these things. And, like I say, there's two halves, so that's just the perception. I'm not saying it's true. The devs, in their wisdom, have decided to split the servers. Or at least this is what they're saying. Now, given the fact that about 50% of what gets talked about doesn't get implemented, who knows where this one will end up. But their current position is they intend to split the servers and create a European server, which will have time locks on when you can generate hostility. They're talking about a 10-hour window. But that would basically kill the US player base, and it would kill the Southeast Asian player base from participating. And to be honest, the Southeast Asian player base, unless you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning, can't participate anyway. So I live in Australia, and I know I don't live in the cultural and civilization centre of the world, so I'm happy fitting my life in around my gaming. But for a lot of the Europeans, that's not the same. They do live in the centre of civilization along with the Americans. And this discord, this split between the two ideologies, those who say it's a global server and you can attack whenever you want, and those who say no, it's not, and I don't like my port being taken at 2 o'clock in the morning, has led the devs to the conclusion that the best thing that they can test right now is the sundering of the servers. So we'll have one server, which will, I suppose, be the Euro PvP1 server, with a 10-hour attack window on it. We'll have another server, which maybe we can refer to as the global server, which I'm assuming will have no attack constraints on it. I think they're going to merge the US server into the global server. Or they'll be one and the same, whichever way around that is. And this will be coming, we don't really know exactly when, but I don't know, we can guess it's at the same time as the ship wipe, but who knows, it could be at a different time, it's difficult to know. And if that happens, well, I don't know. I'm probably not balanced on this one myself. I live in a far-flung corner of the earth, so for me, I do look for games with global attraction. And I don't like games that don't let me play. They deny me content because of where I am now. You know, for some games that might be because the ping's too terrible. If you play a shooter game and you've got a half a second lag, you're dead, basically, by the time you see the enemy. And you have to be sort of telepathetic in order to predict where things are going to be in half a second if you're shooting at them. So, you know, a sniper on a US server is probably not going to be an Aussie. So because of that, I have a sort of different standpoint in that I do look for games that allow global participation. Now, I personally believe that the issues we have today are very much to do with the fact we've only got 550, 600 players on at peak time, which means we have 200 players. If you logged on now to the server, it's Aussie prime time now. It's, what is it now, about 9 o'clock at night or something like that. We've all just stopped watching Walking Dead and Black Sails for this week's episodes, and we're properly traumatised, and now we need to come on and relax by killing French, Spanish, Swedish and Danish people. So coming from a far-flung corner, I probably have a different viewpoint. I think it's a really, really, really bad idea to split the server now. Just because 650 people online at peak, let's chuck in the US server to those numbers and say it's 850 people at peak. But if you split those and spread them out, you'll end up with at best 300 people at peak time. 300-400 people peak time at best. It's just not enough. We'll all become essentially minimalised with our ability to get involved. Not only that, on the Euro server, the Brits and the US players are pretty much not going to go there. Now, I'm not speaking for all Brits, but that's the sentiment of everybody I've spoken to, and I speak to quite a lot of folks. I suspect a lot of pubbies who aren't clan-oriented will stay with the global server. So you'll end up fundamentally with the Spanish, French, Danish and Swedish port battlers who don't like being hit at 2 o'clock in the morning. And who would? Who would like to be hit at 2 o'clock in the morning? Nobody. Going over that and then just going to fight each other. So maybe they'll love that. Maybe that'll be perfect, and it'll be a game they can play between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. Get their fill of naval action and move along. But I just don't see it working. I think we're struggling for numbers. The game isn't being overly marketed now, and they don't have to. They're in test. The devs are playing a longer game than we are as players. They're looking at a 6 and 12-month window. They know, or they think they know, or they know from... They have a perception of what they think they know every month about what they're doing next. It does seem to change rather adversely. And I must admit, I did think about giving it up myself for a while and just waiting until it all settles down. I'm not going to, because I can't. I'm too much of a muppet for my naval actionness. I've actually been sailing around levelling my alt this week. I'm having great fun just running around in my little trincomalee. The problem for me is that a lot of the content it needs a fuller server. I think at 550, 600, we're only just about testing out things like economy and what will a port battle be like when you've got numbers on and layers of screeners and the rules of engagement. And I really think it's a big mistake to split the population. The day it was announced, the next day there was 30% less people on the British TeamSpeaks. The US en masse reduced their numbers significantly. They didn't defend at Gasparilla, and neither did the Brits, despite the fact it was at the weekend. So there's been a real morale crush for, if you like, the Western Alliance. As much as I play my role as a British captain, I respect and like my enemies. I know, you jump into a port battle and I see 10 names, 15 names, 20 names I've fought against before. I know what these guys are good at. I know their approach to the game. I know most of them love the game as much as I do and want to enjoy the game as much as I do. So, to some extent, and God, it's first birthday drinks that are doing this, I will miss fighting the Frenchies and the Dutch and the Danes and the Spanish and the Swedes, and not the Dutch, because they're my allies. I should stop fighting them. So I am really, really down on this. I think it's a terrible idea. They've had 3 months of not releasing patches. Surely they could have put something better in than this. There's lots of suggestions. There's lots of people posting on the forums. You could allow 2 port battles per nation inside time zones and 1 outside. You could allow the defender of a port to set the port battle window, and only if it's lost and, say, held for a week, only then could you change that battle window, and maybe only by 4 hours each week you hold it. So, it would take you the best part of a month to move it outside of the attacker's time slot. I was hoping raids would play an integral part. You would raid the outer ports to diminish the primary ports, so everybody, the Aussies and the Americans and so on and so forth, would have an opportunity to participate in the grand show, as it were. But instead, I think we as a player community have been very immature. I think we've played to win too much. I think we've been too precious about our pixels. If you're waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning to defend a port, then don't complain about it, right? So I do it. I do it because I love the game, and I do it because I want to hold on to a port. I'm competitive. The map means something. That's what RVR is all about. So I do it, but I don't complain about it, right? I don't complain about the fact I have to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's a choice. It's a choice. I have a kip in the afternoon. I've got a missus and kids and a mortgage and a job, and, I work lots of hours in the week. So it's a choice I make. Now, if you can't do that, if it doesn't fit in with your life cycle, don't do it. Don't do it. But live with the fact that in a beta, you're going to lose a port. Right? So night flipping's been going on forever. Right? It has got a little bit worse recently with the various angsts and breakdowns. If I just run back a couple of slides, look at this map. Is it covered in green from night flipping? No. Have the French pushed back into South America? Yes. Have they kicked the Brits out of Castries? Yes. Have the Danes retaken Haiti? Yes. Have the French and the Swedes held on to Pap and Les Cays for months on end? Yes. Right? There's been a few night flips around here. This was probably a night flip. This was retaken as a night flip. That's it. It's not as if these gremlins, these green gremlins who just want to play in their main time zone, let's remember that, have somehow stolen everybody's cakes. Of the 10 night flips that have happened recently, all but 3 of them have been successfully repelled, and often with screamers and streamers. Streamers and screeners. So honestly, we're overreacting. I really think we're overreacting. People writing up shitty Steam reviews because they know the devs are a little bit too pretty and reactive to bad Steam reviews. That's just the devs being a bit childish. For God's sake, you're in beta, you don't market the game, and you don't really do much to win the community over with your communications and your constant flip-flopping in different directions with, oh, we're going to have a new trading system and a new way of building ships. Oh, wait a minute, no, we're not. Oh, hang on a minute, we're going to wipe them. Oh, wait a minute, no, we're not. Oh, wait a minute, yes, we are. It's not like you're going mad with giving us cuddles and kisses to win us over. So, you know, chill if you get the odd naff review on Steam. Every time I put up a video, within 5 seconds of the video going up, there's one guy who gives me a dislike. He doesn't even watch the bloody things, but he still takes the time to see I've put a video up and given me a dislike. I don't change my content, right? Mostly because I don't know why he does it. I just, you know, can't sleep anymore because I know someone out there doesn't like me. So I really think as a player base, we've let ourselves down here, boys and girls. I've been sailing with, there's 2 or 3 ladies sailing with the Brits at the moment. It's very nice. It's good to see. I wish my generation had women gamers. Good grief, it's quite the opposite. Anyhow, I really think we've duffed it as a community. The angst now has ramped up. So since Christmas, we've actually been picking up numbers across the board. And now our numbers are falling again. And this is before the ship wipe. Wait until the ship wipe hits. That always pisses people off. I don't have a problem with it. It's alpha, it's beta, whatever. I don't have a problem with it personally. I did actually consider making this the last letter to the king, but I've decided not to throw my toys out the pram and carry on playing, and hopefully something happens and something changes and we get back on with Happy World PvP. But personally, see, look, he should be playing Naval Action. He's a Naval Action guy. He's playing bloody XCOM 2. Personally, I think we've duffed it, boys. I think the devs have overreacted. I think probably the silent minority, maybe not, maybe there's a lot of people who really, really, really hate losing pixel ports at 2 o'clock in the morning in an alpha, and it spoils their Christmas. I don't know. But anyway, I think it's a terrible idea to split the community. I like my enemies. I like killing my enemies. I don't like being killed by my enemies, but I kind of respect it. Yeah, we've duffed it. This is a terrible idea, and I really, really hope it doesn't happen. With that, I'll move along. Oh, look, I've duffed that as well. With that, I'll move along, and where will the biffo be next week? Well, it'll all be at 3 a.m. Or completely not defended, because everyone's grumpy bastards. But we can expect the Americans to continue to be under pressure. The little shallows are getting a real... this is like it's like Dodgem cars, I've said that before, but they'll get another bashing. There'll be attacks on Cap and Pap, because there always is. The Dutch will continue to keep trying for these Frenchy ports until they eventually pull a solid fleet together and manage to break through. The French and the Brits will carry on going at each other around the Windward Islands. I'm not sure if these ports if Haiti and Dominica will see much action. There might be some more fractious stuff around the Yucatan. We'll see. Not much change really. The Spanish obviously got Gasparilla back. The Swedes made some profits in the shallows. The Americans took ports off the Danes in the shallows, so their net loss isn't as bad. But yeah, so that's it for a depressing first birthday episode of Letter to the King. I hope you enjoyed it. Give us a like. To the fellow who likes to give me a dislike, give me a dislike. Give me a subscribe. I will see you on the oceans, and I will catch you.